New developments with our national debate over gun control. Welcome to a brand new hour here of America Live. I'm Megan Kelly. We are hearing reports that the White House is considering a plan on gun rights, on sort of revising the gun laws that may be bigger and more far-reaching than previously thought. Interestingly, this comes on the same day that we're learning more about a frightening home invasion case in Atlanta. A home invasion that could have ended tragically for a family, but for the fact that the mother had a .38 revolver and knew how to use it. Trace will have more details on this in a couple of minutes, but first, we go to Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel live from Washington. Mike?
Well, hi, Megan. White House officials say President Obama has been clear. He expects recommendations from Vice President Biden's group this month and will push for them without delay following that. A senior administration official told us the Biden group is taking a broad approach and gun laws are only one part of the issue. It is believed that translates to much more than simply reinstating an expired ban on assault weapons and high-capacity ammunition. The Biden group is likely considering universal background checks for gun buyers, a national database to track the sale and movement of weapons, tougher penalties for carrying guns near schools, and stronger mental health checks. Let's take a live look at the White House briefing room where Press Secretary Jay Carney is due to take reporter questions any moment now. White House aides do not want to get ahead of what the Biden group may propose and note its recommendations will be out sometime in January. Once the plans are released, then the administration will undertake a major public relations offensive, including from the briefing room, on why their ideas should be implemented without delay. Back during the 2008 campaign, then Senator Obama tried to reassure people he was not anti-gun.
When y'all go home and you're talking to your buddies, and they say, oh, he wants to take my gun away. You've heard it here. I'm on television, so everybody knows it. I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in people's lawful right to bear arms. I will not take your shotgun away. I will not take your rifle away. I won't take your handgun away.
Regarding what the Biden team is expected to propose, newly elected Democrat Senator Heidi Heitkamp from North Dakota has expressed some concern. Heitkamp says what she's heard about the upcoming proposal is, quote, way in extreme of what she thinks is necessary and is not going to pass Congress. The Second Amendment is clearly an emotional issue for many Americans. Supporters say it is about freedom and suggest tighter gun control won't prevent violence.
You got to remember that bad guys aren't stupid. They're just bad. They're going to figure out a way. If they're intent on doing something bad, they're going to figure out a way to get a firearm and use it.
Other than guns, there are those worried about the impact violent video games and movies have on young people today. Megan?
All right, Mike, thank you. Just want to tell our viewers that in that 2008 soundbite, President Obama went on to say, after saying, I won't take your shotgun away or your rifle away, there are some common sense gun safety laws that I do believe in, but I'm not going to take your guns away. Now, this appears to be, what he's going after, what he believes are common sense gun safety laws, but of course, the debate will be, what's common sense to one person versus another. And in the middle of the national gun debate comes a home invasion story out of Georgia, where a young mother was able to save her family from an intruder because she had a revolver inside of her house. Trace Gallagher live in our West Coast newsroom with that story. Trace?
Megan, happened about 30 miles outside of Atlanta. A mother was home with her 9-year-old twins. A man began knocking on the door. She didn't answer because she didn't want to deal with any salesman, and then the suspect began ringing the doorbell again and again and again. That's when she called her husband. Her husband then called 911. She grabbed a .38 revolver and her twins, and they ran to a nearby closet. They stayed in that closet. The suspect then broke into the house and began ransacking the entire house. He then walked upstairs and opened the closet door. Listen.
All of a sudden, the crawl space door opens where she and her two children are, and she's face to face with this perpetrator.
And then
who's in turn staring at her and her two kids and a .38 revolver.
What'd she do next?
She fires all 6 shots.
All 6 shots hitting the suspect in the face and the neck. The suspect lay face down on the ground crying. The woman tells him if he moves, she will keep shooting. But he gets up, stumbles out of the house, into his car, drives away, but crashes in nearby woods. The cops show up seconds later. The woman takes her twins to a neighbor's house next door for safety. The cops arrest the suspect and say the woman with the .38 revolver did exactly the right thing. Megan.
It's unbelievable, that story. I mean, they called 911. She tried to, lock the door. She tried to hide. She tried to protect the children, avoid confrontation, and confrontation was set on finding her. All right, Trace, thank you. For more now, we're going to bring in Lars Larson, who's a syndicated radio host, and he's been on the program a number of times. Hi, Lars, talking about gun rights, and has said publicly that he's a proud gun owner and is concerned about additional crackdowns on the gun laws. Now, 38 revolvers, I don't think would be within the scope of any new laws, right, Lars? Because they're looking at more assault-type weapons, not sort of personal home protection.
Except for this. Remember this, Donnie Herman's wife, whose name is still being withheld by the police, and I think that's prudent, she's a very brave woman, and she did exactly the right thing. The problem is, she was confronting one intruder. If she'd been confronting three, she ran out of bullets on the one intruder, and he was still able to get up, go out to the driveway, and drive his car away. If she'd been confronting three people, she would have been out of bullets way too early, and that's one reason why most people, including most police officers and most people who care about protecting their homes, want a gun that is capable of holding more than that and capable of reloading very quickly. This is what the president's plan will go after. And if you take the Feinstein proposal, which you can see on the senator's website, she would actually say that if you have a gun that holds more than 10 bullets, you are not allowed to buy one after her plan passes. You're not allowed to sell it. You're not allowed to transfer it to a family member or a friend. You're not allowed to leave it to your children after you're gone. This is the kind of implication it has for American families to take away the right to own the kind of gun that they need to protect their home. This woman was very fortunate and very courageous, but this president wants to take away people's rights to own the appropriate tool to repel an invader or invader into their house.
That's a fascinating point. I hadn't really considered that. I mean, it was stunning to me that the guy's expected to be okay, even though 5 of the 6 bullets hit him, and a 38, that's not like the tiny lady's revolver, right? I mean, that's a substantial gun. So it is pretty amazing that he lived through that. You raise an interesting point about had there been a second intruder. Because, if you're not sort of in, like, the gun rights world, you think, all right, 6 bullets, that ought to do it.
Well, Megan, here's the problem. Too many people who are not familiar with firearms, unlike us, the folks like me that go to the range all the time, they watch a movie and they say 1 bullet will make the intruder fly backward 50 feet and be completely incapacitated or dead. That's not the way it happens. When I've taken Citizens Academy courses from the local police departments, they'll point out that officers will tell you you can put a lot of bullets in a bad guy and he will keep coming at you. That's why they teach officers, shoot till the threat is gone. This woman did exactly what she should do. She fired at center of mass. She apparently punched his lungs, his stomach, his liver. That's what he's in the hospital being treated for now. And he still had the capacity to get up, go back outside, and drive a car down the street.
What do you make of it, Lars? Is there any limit on, magazines, on ammunition that you could get behind?
The limits on magazines are silly. In fact, there's some great videos that with gun experts who show that if somebody has 5 10-round magazines, the time to change from magazine to magazine is very short, which means putting a limit on it, 10 or 15 or whatever number you want to pick, really isn't meaningful. Somebody can change those magazines very quickly. I have a feeling that what the president would like to do and what Senator Feinstein would like to do is have a bill that initially puts limits on specific guns and says you can't own them, you can't buy them, you can't sell them, you can't inherit them. And then, down the line, they will add more guns to that list, they will add more limitations, and Americans will eventually be stripped of their right to own firearms at all in any practical way. They'll also go after ammunition, so be aware of that. This woman is a perfect example of why if you want to protect your home, you might need more than 6 bullets. She might have that day.
Well, I mean, of course, the president, you heard it in that soundbite, has said he's not going to go after your guns. He just wants sensible gun laws, and as I said, it's going to come down to
Megan,
what
his
that
lips
means.
were moving. He was lying.
Well, we know where Lars stands on the issue.
If his lips were moving, he was lying.
But we'll see, because there are a lot of Americans who support broad, robust gun rights in this country, and so even politically, there's a question about just how far they could go with this. Lars, thanks for being here. I got to run.
Thank you, Megan.
But Lars should stay tuned for this, because we're going to discuss coming up in a little bit whether you can be fired for being too attractive. He's